And good morning. We're glad to have you guys here with us this morning. We're glad to have any of you who might be watching us online, and we are happy to be here. I'm going to talk this morning about generosity and about kindness. I think let's take just a couple of minutes to kind of get centered and bring our awareness and our attention to the present moment. So if you would like to, just go ahead and let's all close our eyes and bring our awareness to the present moment. Take a nice deep breath in and exhale slowly. Take another nice deep breath in. Exhale slowly again. Again, bring your thoughts to the present moment. We're grateful for this time that we have together. We're grateful for each other and the things that we bring to the table. The things that each one of us have to say are always things that bring us together as people, give us better ideas of what's happening in each other's lives, what could be happening in each other's lives. And we are grateful for the input, for the sharing, and for new ideas that may come to us, or just reminders of things that we already know. And we say thank you, and so it is. Amen. So I want you to just take a minute to kind of check in with yourself, see where you are. Say on a scale of 1 to 10, what are you feeling at this moment? Kind of down. You've had some stuff happening in your life maybe that was not so good. Struggling a little bit, or are you feeling really well, feeling really good today? Things are going well, you're in really good spirits, and just take a minute to just kind of check in on that. One of the things that I have done is take some time online to watch videos of random acts of kindness. And it is on. Can you not hear me? Is that better? How about I'll just do this? Okay. That way I don't have to worry about it. Plus, I'm going to wander around. If you have something to say, I'm going to wander over to you and give you a mic so that we can hear. Because last week I watched it online, and we couldn't hear any of the comments. So I'm going to wander around with the mic. Is that better? Okay. Okay, so I brought in a random act of video of random acts of kindness off of YouTube that we're going to show right now. A lot of it looks like it's from another country, but it's still the random acts of kindness. So we're going to go ahead and watch that. Yeah. Oh, okay. It's interesting. The screen is watching a delay here. So this is technology. Interesting. Hi, Clay.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Stellar.
Good.
If it's any better, I'd have to take a pill for it.
Okay. Okay.
What time is popcorn?
Did you bring it?
Oh, was it my week?
It was.
It's not popcorn.
I just- Gotta love technology. It's a good thing. That's me talking on the delay.
Jeez, I thought you were a whole. That's when it's gonna be cool. That's when Cat can make a hologram of you, and you don't even have to get it out of bed on Sunday, you can still do this. There we go. There we go.
There we go. Can we hear it? Uh-uh.
Do we have Cat?
Yeah, no, it's a wonderful generated system we have.
Hey, Obi.
I'd have to start that over.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll have to play it over once it plays on.
Once it plays online.
Yeah, it's all coming through the same system, so.
But we can't,
Split it.
we just can't hear it here.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll work on it for the ending one.
Okay. All right. How about we do that then?
Yeah, let's let those play though.
Okay.
There's only so much equipment, we're still working on all this equipment back there.
Okay. So this is going to play, it's playing online, so you guys are getting to hear it. So I'm not exactly. Can we stop it online and just restart it? Because otherwise the people at home are hearing it and then I'm talking over it.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So we're just going to go on.
Apparently though, that they can't hear on this side. I'm not sure if this will fix it or not. So try it again.
I feel like I'm caught in the time loop.
I know. I think-
Just bring your sewing clay and then you don't get it.
I don't sew, but I'm thinking about taking up embroidery so I can make Chiefs shirts of my own because they're so dang expensive.
We may just have to forego
You wouldn't
the.
believe like up at the Cardinals, the Springfield Cardinals, for a T-shirt, a lousy T-shirt, they want $42. I am not paying that. I would have paid $21, which is what it's worth.
Sure. Sure. So we've got it. Have we got it stopped completely? Because, like I said, otherwise I'm going to talk over it to the people that are home.
But we can do it at the end. I mean,
Yeah,
you
let's
can't
just-
play it both spots at one time, so we'll just have to decide how you want to do that.
Let's just not play it then.
Okay, I'll put it on the Facebook page.
Okay. Okay.
Cool, we can watch it from Facebook.
Yeah. Because, you know, one of the things that I loved was what you were seeing with this guy is he comes in, man, he is so mad. He comes in and he's yelling and screaming because apparently his bike was stolen. And this guy, it's outside, and he comes in and he's yelling. He's like, man, you stole my bike. I'm calling the police and all of this stuff. And he's just furious, and he's yelling and he's screaming at this guy. And the guy says, man, I bought it for $10. I got to use it to get to work. And the guy immediately softens. And he's like, okay, now I can hear myself here.
Just going with the
On a
flow.
delay.
Come in. Sorry.
That's okay.
There we go.
All right. Okay. So the guy just softens immediately. He's like, man, you gotta watch your friends. Your friends are going to get you in trouble. Watch who you're buying things from and who you're hanging out with. He said, I don't want to take this bike if you need it to get to work. We got to figure this out. If we can, maybe we can just exchange numbers and that way, we'll figure it out. Once you figure out a different way to get to work, then I can get my bike back. I've got another one at home that I'm working on. Maybe once I get that one done, maybe I can give you that one, and that way you can give me this one back, and just completely and totally softens in that situation and is willing to help the guy out. To me, that's just an amazing example of just an act of kindness where he goes from just really being angry because somebody stole his bike to recognizing the need in another person and being able to try and fill that need. As I was doing this, one of the things that I came across was a generosity spiral. And in the Middle Ages, there was a Jewish sage called Moses Maimonides, I think is how it is, that wrote about 7 levels of charity. And it started with giving to impose values, ideas, or beliefs. What do you think that might be? Some examples of that might be for giving to impose values, ideas, or beliefs. Hang on, I'm going to come around because you can't hear.
Tithing.
Tithing. It might be one of them. Anybody else?
I'm not quite sure what your question is.
What do you think are some examples of giving to try and impose ideas or values or beliefs?
Missionaries do that when they teach people how to take care of themselves, how to grow crops, how to earn a living. So those are things that would impose, it would be the value of being a solid, I don't know what you'd call it, but a giving person, because you would be able to then to give back. And so it would be helping someone help themselves.
Okay, and that is like actually the very last one is doing that. Clay, did you have something else?
I was just going to talk about, say that the example in terms of the humanist point of view would be the Peace Corps. Because again, they do the same thing. Like my parents were going to do that, but they weren't able to. They were going to teach people from underdeveloped countries how to do animal husbandry. Mm-hmm. So that's, I don't know if that's really imposing a way of imposing their beliefs. Well, it is a way of imposing because you're teaching by example, because you're showing them that you're giving of yourself by example. That's going to have a ripple effect, like you said, that spiral of generosity.
Right. And again, I think that's like the end one that they're talking about.
I think what you're probably trying to say is where we give, that there are strings attached to it. And my therapist at one time, she said, Wendy, everything you do has strings attached to it. And then she said, I want you to go to codependent meetings for at least 3 a week, because it was true. Everything that I did, I had expectations, whether they were met, whether they weren't met. I didn't feel good about it unless my expectation was met. And most of the time, I wouldn't even tell you what that was. But it wasn't freeing inside of me doing it. It was a big trap. It was just this spiral of addiction.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's exactly what he's talking about. I think he's what he's saying is that like some of the big churches will have events where they're giving things to people, but it's because they want them to come, and then they're going to preach to them, or so yeah. And so I think that's what they're talking about with giving, where you're gonna try to impose your beliefs or your values on another person. The next one was wasteful giving what's not needed. What do you think might be some examples of that?
It's like dragging the old lady across the street when she doesn't want to go across the street. That's like the Boy Scout that leads the old lady across the street when she doesn't want to.
She didn't want to go in the first place, right?
She was just standing there.
Right.
Well, to my mind, what first came to mind was when you have some kind of something that you don't really want, and it's kind of useless to the person that you're trying to give it to, but you're just doing it to make yourself feel better.
And yeah, you're just trying to get rid of it.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to store it then.
Yeah. Wendy.
As I've gotten deeper into metaphysics, I understand that there's nothing that I give that anybody needs, because they have the power to create any life that they want and anything they want. So anytime that I'm giving to somebody from a consciousness of I have, they don't, then that's not needed. But when I'm giving from a consciousness of I'm in the flow, I love when the flow flows through me to and from, and then that's not giving out of need. That's not giving to someone. Then we always need to be in the flow. We always want to be in the flow.
What a great concept. Yeah, and that goes back to your attitude toward giving, and where is it that you're coming from? At what place are you coming from when you are giving? And I think that's giving self-interested, in giving in self-interest is the next one. Giving to get something in return. And I think that's kind of, you're expecting them to reciprocate at some point. I think a lot of times we do that. People do that if they're in a relationship, they gave me something, and so I'm going to give them something back. And that kind of goes with that receiving of, are we receiving? Are we giving because someone has given something to us and we feel like we need to reciprocate? Are we receiving something because someone gave us something and we feel like we need to reciprocate? I think that's a big thing at Christmas, when with all of the commercialism, and it's like you're going through your list in your mind of okay, last year so and so and so and so and so and so gave me something, so I need to make sure that I get them something this year, because I don't want to feel bad because they gave me something.
They can even get so low.
Here, hang on, Clay.
It can even be Christmas cards, because I know that we've battled with it. Like, oh crap, somebody got us a Christmas card and we didn't send them one. So that's a guilt trip, I guess, that we put on ourselves.
Sure. And that's exactly right. Because if you think about it, when you give something to someone, do you give with the expectation that they are going to give you something back? I think most of us, we don't give feeling that way, but we impose that guilt on ourselves when we receive something.
That just reminded me of something that I'm guilty of. I do some art, and they're tiles, just decorated tiles, and I gave one to each of my children, so that they would remember me kindly when I was gone.
Oh, they would anyway.
Wendy says they would anyway. Clay said, "What a cheap act."
This is one that I have kind of a challenge with, because I am not sure that giving without any expectation, anything, I'm not sure that is a real thing. Just because I'm going to be setting the ideas and the things that I want in my life, and I am always going to be constructing my life in a way that it works for me, and that I can be in the flow, and that I can be whole. And if I interact with somebody and the interaction with that individual doesn't fit my ability to stay centered, my ability to stay in love, I'm going to make a decision to do something different in that relationship. And that can, so it's kind of a balance between recognizing that I can choose for my life based on things that people's responses and things, whether I want that response in if somebody's always yelling at you, you might make even though you would be maybe giving to them, you're going to make a response that says, eventually, I'm not really interested in continuing to do this. Mm-hmm. And in a way, that's I'm not going to see you unless, I'm not going to spend time with you. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm making sense. There's a balance in there of honoring your own self and the expectations you have of others and the choices you're going to make in the relationships with others. And all of that's a giving, isn't it? Even spending time with someone is a giving. So I don't know. I haven't got all that one figured out, but I know there's some of that in there.
And I definitely see what you're saying. I think that there is an ability to give without expectation. I think about when you see someone on a street corner and asking for money or work or whatever, and if you stop and you give them money, and once you release that money, you let go of any expectation of what they're going to do with that money. It has absolutely nothing to do with you, what they do with that money. I hear people a lot say, well, I don't want to give somebody on the street money because they're just going to go buy drugs with it. That's you have no idea what they're going to do with it, and it's not your place to judge what they're going to do with it or judge whether they're worthy of receiving that from you based on what they're going to do with the money. It has nothing to do with you.
There's a word that I think has been missing in this discussion, and that is appreciation. Appreciation, if you appreciate what you have and you see an opportunity to share out of that sense of appreciation for what you have, then you share it. And there's no connection between you and the recipient necessarily at all. But it's out of the gift of appreciation. It comes from the heart, not from the head.
How have you felt when a Christmas card's returned? That's a good thing to check when you send a Christmas card and it comes back to you because that person has moved or whatever like this. Do you feel rejected because they didn't tell you they were moving, or they don't send out those moving cards like some of us do that have moved a lot? It's interesting how when you're not expecting anything and you just send, but then something comes back, and do you feel rejected, or do you understand that they moved and they don't send those cards out or whatever?
Yeah.
It's good to check.
I was just gonna comment on that, if that's okay.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, I have to come on later. Don't know where you're gonna put the mic, but I was just gonna say, I think it has to do a lot with your inner work and what work you have done. Unfortunately, I come from a family where there's a long list of obligations of what we're supposed to do with gift giving, and I had to really break out of that because I think there is a lot. It's easy to judge our younger generation and say that, and I try really hard not to do that. But I think there's a lot of greediness and expectations going on in our society and in our country, and I think it really, like what you were saying, it's about being grateful and gratefulness and reframing your mindset of, like Wendy said, it's about the gift of time. Like just as a personal note, my family loves to give a gift once a year, but then the rest of the year won't really have much of contact because I'm gay and they don't believe it's, quote, my lifestyle, whatever. So I had to really work out of that because I was the first person in my family that said, I'm not buying a gift for every single person. It's not what measures my worth, and it's not what measures your worth. And so I just think it's back to the inner work.
Yeah, thank you. LB.
This was one of the conflicts that I had with my son, was he said, you always have strings attached. Well, when you send somebody something to Alaska and you never know if they get it, it's kind of like, and to him, that was a string. To me, it was kind of common courtesy. And I know that my other son has had this issue too, because they'll send stuff and he'll never respond. You never know whether they got it. And my brother has said the same thing with, he sent stuff when my daughter's daughter graduated from high school. Never knew whether they got it or not. And so, are those strings? And it's a balancing act. Sometimes you just have this balancing act that you're like, how do you, and you just have to go inside and release whatever is there. And but there are some circumstances that can be really hard to figure out, because to me that wasn't a string, it was a common courtesy, but to him it was a string.
And that's really interesting. I think it comes down to one of the things that they talk about in Al-Anon and in AA is letting go of attachment to the outcome. And so I think that in gift giving, being able to come to a place where you're able to release the outcome, like giving money to someone on the street and releasing your attachment to the outcome of what's going to happen to that money, or sending someone a gift. And I'm with you, completely, LB. I get that completely. You want to know if they got it. Did something happen, and did you get this? Because if you didn't, then did you move and I didn't know it? Like Pat was saying, did you move and I didn't know it? Did I send it to the wrong place? Did they lose it at the post office? So you have these questions about that.
Is it broken and you needed to collect the insurance, but the insurance, he just threw it away. And it was like, I spent the money to insure that, So and you just, it can be a befuddling thing.
And this may be problem solving, which is something I work on, but at the moment I'm not going to work on it. I'm just going to say it. Is just send in a little note that says, I'm sending you something. Will you just let me know you got it? That might help the situation. And then if he doesn't, if you send something and they still don't let you know that they got it, then yeah, you can be irritated.
But that puts you out of the vortex.
Right. Exactly.
That puts you out of the flow when you get irritated. So, there's got to be some kind of you just got to do it when you're feeling like this is what you got to do, and then you just got to let it go. And sometimes that's a learning process.
Absolutely.
What I was thinking of as far as an example of giving something without expecting having any strings attached was something I did yesterday. And I'm just telling this so you can all think that I'm such a nice person. I've been walking by this table at the grocery store in my neighborhood for weeks, and they've had this giveaway where you pay $5 for a bag full of canned goods, and then they distribute it for you. So I thought, man, I'm going to do that, and it made me feel really good. But I don't think they're going to tell me like make sure that they got it. I just have to trust that the powers that be at that grocery store are going to get it to that person. And I thought, when I was thinking about that, I thought, well, wait, that's just like giving some money to somebody on the street corner, because those people can go get food from Ozark Food Harvest and all those from whatever it's called, cross lines. They're able to go get some of that food, and that's where the food that I just paid for distributed to. And I appreciate that I can get something out of it that really hardly cost anything, and it's benefiting someone. So, to me, that's one of the best things in this life is to give generously. Well, that wasn't that generous, but and without having any expectation of what happens to it. If they wanted to get those canned goods and sell them for drugs, and that's their, like you said, that's we have to turn that over and we can't control what other people do.
Brandy, are you hearing the comments okay? I am. Okay, good.
In the last analysis, it seemed to me that whenever we do something kindly for someone else, actually we're just doing it for ourselves because it really feels good. and it's in the last analysis, we are selfish, we are self-centered, and everybody profits if you look at it that way. The recipient receives it, he profits, and you profit by doing it. Who loses? Nobody.
And when we feel good, when we feel better, then that benefits all of the people around us, and it benefits the people that we come in contact with when we feel better. So it's like you said, Don, it is a win-win. Okay, so the next one is reactive giving only when someone asks for it. The next one above that is meager giving but giving just enough. Do you have any thoughts on either one of those? Okay. Hang on. Clay says he's not sure what is meant by that, by giving just enough.
A 10% tie would do that because a 10% is what you can feel guilty about because that's the obligation, that's the Old Testament, and so if you only give 10%, you're only giving what's required, and that's an obligation thing, it's not a free will thing.
I wanted to address the one that came before that. When you answer a question that no one has asked, that's giving something that hasn't been asked for. And there are too many things that are more objectionable than trying to force your ideas on somebody else, especially religious ideas.
Yeah. Wendy wants to contribute.
Wendy? Yeah, hang on.
When you talk about meager giving or any of those kinds of things, for a long time now, what I do when there's somebody asking is I just, I've asked inside and I say, what's mine to do here? And for me, the feeling is if I move forward and pass that person by and I feel a denseness in the air, I know I need to go back and do something. And then, and sometimes it's like, do 5, 10, everything in my purse? Do I go to the bank and get more? But the important thing in all of it, to me, is I don't have to, if I take the time to be in touch with my own source, with my own, get that connection, that's the important thing, not the giving. The important thing is to be in touch. And then you listen because you don't know. You don't know. When everybody sits here and says, well, somebody will use that for drugs or alcohol or anything. One of the most amazing givings that I did when I lived in Las Vegas, New Mexico, is there was a man, an elderly gentleman, and he was always in front of this store, and all he ever wanted was $1 so he could go in and get a quart of beer, and he would go around half a block, and he would sit under a tree and drink his quart of beer and read romance novels. And oh my God, that man was in heaven. And who was I to determine the value of money being spent on alcohol? So if I listen and come, then there's no meager giving, because sometimes giving more is meager giving. It's not coming from that place of what's mine to do. I don't know if that makes sense.
It did. It made perfect sense. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. The next one down is responsive giving to an emergency need which a lot in the video you see that a lot where someone's fallen down in the road and someone comes and helps to pick them up. You see someone struggling with shopping bags and you go to help them get their shopping bags in their car, or you know, holding an umbrella, seeing somebody it's pouring down rain and you hold an umbrella and walk someone to their car. Those are emergent needs. Purposeful giving, with meaning as if it's a mission. So one of the things that we're doing next week, Christy Love with Connecting Grounds, thank you. With Connecting Grounds is going to be here, and she's going to talk to us about partnering with her and some of the things that we can do with the homeless community after the service. So I really encourage you to stay and talk to her and ask questions and things. And that would be giving, purposeful giving with a meaning and with a mission. Because that's something that we really want to do as a church, is to become more involved in the community and become more involved in what we can do with the unsheltered people right here in our own community. Yeah, Clay.
I just wanted to give you all a preview. I happened to read an article about that program that Christy Love has initiated. It's really awesome. They described one of the homeless people, and I may get a little emotional talking about this because this person couldn't see their child because of things that they'd done, but they are working out a way where volunteers can have a training and be able to stand, basically be a chaperone for that, and the court will allow that, and that person can see their child with your help. So it's something that's very dear to my heart, because I've had family issues with that sort of thing, with separation of children from their parents because of stupid decisions that they've made. But, you know, what are we if we are not forgiving? What are we if we don't give people a second chance? And that's what I love about her. Christy Love is all about helping the helpless, people that don't have, they got no other place to turn. And I'm loving that our church is getting involved with that and connected with that.
I agree. I'm so excited because I think that there are so many opportunities that we don't have any idea about, like that. What an incredible opportunity that would be to help someone be able to reconnect with their kids. And so I'm excited about it.
So for me, there's a different element to purposeful, being a purposeful, rather than purposeful meaning so much, is this a worthy project? I'm going to do it for the purpose of this worthy project. So, for example, with the homeless, if I give to the homeless from a purposeful way, my purpose is to see them whole. My purpose is to be a part of them seeing themselves whole, them being empowered. So that's my idea of purposeful doing. And when I do that, there are some times that I maybe even hang back just a little bit before I'll, give to someone, to say, okay, Spirit, let me be purposeful in this. And then sometimes I'll go and things will come out of my mouth to that person. Maybe one man, it was like, I just want you to know that you are a powerful force for good in this world, and that you're here for a purpose, and everything about you is amazing and wonderful. So purpose is not just giving them, but is giving them purpose. Teaching them who they are is the main purpose. I don't know if that makes
And I love that, Wendy, because that goes along with not just giving, but the kindness, that making that connection and that purpose of helping them to remember who they are, and helping them to know that you see who they are. That's that act of kindness as well. And so I love that.
So I'm a cancer survivor, and when I got cancer, I didn't expect it to last as long as it did. I was supposed to be out about 3 months, and I ended up being out about 1.5 years. And one of the hardest things for me was to learn how to be a receiver, but responsive kindness just welled up in the people in my world, and I had friends paying my electric bill and buying my family groceries, and neighborhoods of strangers would adopt my family, and they would take turns throughout the week to cook food for my family. While I was completely flattened, I was so ill and I was unable to work, and these people stepped up in a responsive kindness in a way that blessed my world so much. And I just can't say enough. I know sometimes people think, you should be kind even when there isn't a need, of course, but I definitely want to celebrate responsive kindness.
Thank you for sharing that. Pat, did you have something?
Yeah. My father was a physician, and we traveled a lot from time to time, and he never failed to stop at like an automobile accident or anything like this. And he would hop out of the car and he'd say, "One of you girls bring my bag," and he'd go to see if he could administer any help at all to the people in the accident and so on. And that's happened all over this country when we have traveled. And I've found myself having learned that from him. The other day, I put this guy into so many awkward positions sometimes because we walked out of a quarter-final basketball game one time, and a young man was roughing up a cheerleader from a different team, and I had to go over and say something to him, and of course he spouts off at me, so this guy walks up and says, "You listen to her." She, but I've done a lot of those things where, in fact, we were on the way back from Kansas City at a Unity dance one time, and a car had been hit on the side of the road, and the police were there, and so I said, "Stop," and so I went and said to the policeman, "Is there anything I can do?" And he says, "Well, could you sit here beside this guy and keep him awake, keep talking to him so he won't fall asleep or faint or what?" Because he was obviously drunk, and he'd been driving the car, and this other car was sitting on the side of the road, had been abandoned, probably it had car trouble or something. So he had hit a car just sitting on the side of the road, and of course he was drunk, and so he said, "If you just sit here and talk to him and keep him awake." So here I am sitting on the side of the road, and we hardly know one another, talking to this drunk, keeping him awake, and those kind of things happen all the time. And the other day, he stopped to get gas, and a mother robins with 3 baby birds, the nest had fallen out of the tree. And as he's pumping the gas, I'm seeing this bird over there, and I have to get out of the car and walk over and find out that it's the nest on the ground with 3 baby robins. And of course, I call somebody to see if I can get some help, and they said, "Well, just try to put the birds back in the nest and put it back in the tree." Well, I was too short to do that, and that probably wouldn't work anyway. So at any rate, finally I could be satisfied that the need in me to see that something was done was so great, probably because of my upbringing, that I had to send him to Walmart to get worms while I stayed to keep an eye on those birds to keep them from going in the street and get hit. And so when he came back with the worms, I said, "Okay, he said, "We'll just dump them on the ground and Mom will find them." And then I was able to release it. But when there is a need, I have to get to a certain point before I can release it. And then in the case of the cheerleader, I said to the young man, finally, I said, "I'm going back in the gymnasium and I'm going to tell the authorities what's going on here, and you better clean it up because they're going to come check on you shortly." before they shut the doors and everything. But I had already said to the girl, do you want to be here? I'll be happy to take you home. I'll be happy to just stay with you. I'll walk you back into the gym, to the authorities, whatever you want. I'll be happy to do it. And she said, no, it's okay. And her friends were trying to get her out of there. His friends were trying to get him out of there. I just was concerned about the situation was not a healthy one. But it's like I'm schooled to have to get to a certain point, then I can release it. And once we dumped out the worms by the baby birds and mama bird could find them, then I was able to release it. But, nature and all kinds of things, there are needs everywhere. And I have to respond to those and get to a certain point with that, whether it's calling authorities or whatever it is, then I can release it. And I've thought about those baby birds so many times, and I've thought, I wonder if I could catch that mom and bring her over here to our backyard. It's a safe place, but, enough's enough.
You're a good man. And it's funny how, my wife is one of the kindest, most generous people that I've ever known. I love that we will be driving somewhere and see somebody, especially a woman, mostly a woman walking, and she will not hesitate to pull over and give someone a ride. We saw a woman, and it was pouring down rain out on Battlefield, and we stopped, and